If retirement travel looks expensive on paper, it is often not because of the airfare or the apartment you priced out first. It is because of the quiet costs that creep in later, the ones that rarely show up in the dream phase. A checked bag that suddenly costs more on the return than on the outbound. A simple clinic visit that turns into 3 separate charges. A cancellation that is technically refundable, but only after fees, phone calls, and a long delay. A travel day that gets wrecked by a missed connection, late arrival, or bad handoff, and now an entire paid day is gone. Those are the costs that make people say travel is harder than they expected. In this episode, we're going to make those costs visible before they hit you so you can protect your budget without shrinking your life. If you want retirement travel that feels freer, calmer, and more sustainable, subscribe to TravelChoir and stay with us. The first hidden cost is not one big emergency. It is friction. Retirees often budget for the obvious categories like flights, lodging, food, and insurance, but overlook the money that leaks out through little moments of inconvenience. Airline seat selection, baggage changes, roaming mistakes, airport food during delays, laundry in the wrong place, hotel early check-in fees, local transport on arrival, currency conversion losses, and duplicate purchases after something small goes wrong can quietly turn a well-planned trip into a noticeably more expensive one. The problem is not that you forgot to be careful. The problem is that most travel marketing shows the headline price while real travel is paid for in layers. The fix is to stop thinking of travel costs as one neat budget and start thinking in 3 bands: booked costs, operating costs, and disruption costs. Booked costs are what you pay before the trip. Operating costs are what you expect to spend while moving through the trip. Disruption costs are what appear when a day becomes less smooth than planned. The more clearly you separate those 3 bands, the less likely you are to feel blindsided. One of the biggest blind spots for retirees is luggage. People often compare fares without comparing what those fares actually include. A ticket can look cheaper, then become more expensive once you add a checked bag, a carry-on that exceeds a discount airline's limit seat selection, so you are not separated from your travel partner, or priority boarding just to make overhead bin space less stressful. Then the return flight adds another twist, because baggage rules can differ by route, airline partner, airport, or even how early you bought the original fare. Retirees also run into the comfort versus cost dilemma. They may prefer a slightly larger suitcase, better footwear, backup medications, or a few extra items that make slow travel easier, and all of that is reasonable. The mistake is pretending those comfort choices are free. They are not. They are part of the real cost of traveling well at this stage of life. The better approach is to price the entire baggage system before you decide a fare is a deal. Look at outbound and return bag rules, weight limits, carry-on dimensions, and whether your route involves a low-cost regional leg buried inside a longer itinerary. A flight is not cheap if the luggage structure makes the trip annoying, fragile, and more expensive by the end. Medical costs are another category retirees underestimate, not because they ignore health, but because they think in extremes. They imagine either a major emergency or nothing at all. In reality, many travel medical expenses fall into the middle. A prescription refill after a delay. A clinic visit for a respiratory bug, dehydration, a minor fall, food-related illness, or a skin issue that becomes harder to ignore. A doctor's note for an airline, a test required before onward travel, or a follow-up consultation that sounds simple until you are paying out of pocket. Even when the amount is manageable, the stress is higher because it comes at the wrong time and in the wrong place. This is why good insurance matters, but so does a realistic medical buffer. Insurance is not the same thing as zero upfront spending. Sometimes you pay first and claim later. Sometimes the covered amount is narrower than you assumed. Sometimes the clinic you choose affects what is reimbursable. For retirees, the smartest posture is not fear. It is respect for the fact that small health disruptions are ordinary travel events. Build a medical cushion into the trip budget. Carry a clear medication list. Understand how to access care where you are going. And treat minor health spending as part of responsible travel, not as proof that something went terribly wrong. Then there are cancellation costs, which are often more complicated than travelers expect. Retirees tend to be good planners, and that can create a false sense of security. If an itinerary is organized and booked early, it feels protected. But cancellations are rarely one clean event. You might get airline credit instead of a refund. A hotel might refund the room, but not the transfer. A tour might refund only if you cancel before a cutoff that you missed because your inbound flight changed. A non-refundable rate may save money until your dates shift by one day, and suddenly the cheapest choice becomes the most expensive mistake in the whole trip. Even within refundable bookings, there are hidden losses in foreign exchange movement, rebooking at higher last-minute rates, and the cost of replacing a well-timed reservation with a weaker alternative. This is where retirees benefit from thinking less like bargain hunters and more like system builders. Not every part of a trip should be booked under the same refund logic. Some pieces need flexibility more than they need the lowest price. Some legs are worth locking in, while others should remain easier to move. A good trip budget does not only ask, "What is this today?" It also asks, "What does this cost me if life changes?" Another hidden drain is the cost of bad timing. This is where lost days come in, and they matter more than many people realize. A lost day is not just a dramatic disaster. It can be a day that technically happened, but delivered almost none of the value you expected. You paid for lodging, but arrived too late to enjoy the place. You paid for a destination, but spent the day standing in lines, fixing a SIM issue, tracking delayed luggage, or recovering from an overcomplicated transfer. You booked a beautiful stop, then used your best energy solving logistics instead of living the day. For retirees, lost days are expensive because this stage of travel is usually not about racing through a checklist. It is about quality of life on the road. If a day disappears into friction, the loss is emotional as well as financial. This is why cheap itineraries with ugly arrival times, tight connections, or unrealistic movement days are often false economies. Spending a bit more for a calmer arrival, an extra transit buffer, or a better located stay can preserve the day itself, and the day is what you are actually buying. That is also why a simple planning system can save more money than endless price hunting. Before a trip, create a short friction budget for the things most likely to damage flow. Include arrival transport, food for transit days, emergency connectivity, one medical visit, one laundry cycle, one booking change, and one extra night or partial day overlap if the route is ambitious. You are not predicting failure. You are giving the trip room to breathe. That matters even more for retirees traveling for longer stretches, because longer travel exposes more little seams. A 3-day trip can survive a sloppy day. A 6-week trip needs systems, and if you want help building those systems without overcomplicating your planning, check the description for the free resource connected to this episode. It is designed to help you spot the quiet costs before they become budget leaks, so you can protect comfort without shrinking the experience. Transport on the ground is another place where hidden spending hides in plain sight. People compare airfare obsessively, then treat everything after landing like a series of small purchases that do not matter. But airport transfers, baggage carts, toll roads, ride-hail surges, wrong drop-off points, missed train tickets, and station-to-hotel handoffs can stack up fast, especially when you are tired or arriving with luggage. For retirees, convenience often matters, and it should. The point is not to choose the hardest option just because it is cheaper. The point is to price the whole arrival honestly. Sometimes the smarter move is a slightly more expensive hotel near the train station. Sometimes it is a direct transfer on day one, then public transport after you are settled. Sometimes it is paying for the better seat, the more central neighborhood, or the extra night between legs, so you are not buying your way out of exhaustion later. Hidden transport costs are often really decision costs. The money leaves because the plan did not reduce stress at the moment when you needed clarity most. Food and daily living costs can also surprise retirees, especially on longer stays abroad. Not because meals are always expensive, but because travel days distort spending. You buy convenience food in airports. You arrive late and order whatever is easy. Your apartment lacks basic pantry staples, so the first grocery run is larger than expected. You are more likely to pay for water, coffee, and light meals while waiting, reorienting or recovering from fatigue. Then there are the small comforts that become big totals over a month or two. Better coffee, occasional taxis when your feet are tired, a day pass because the weather changed, a pharmacy stop, a second charger, a replacement umbrella, a laundromat because the washer in your rental is too slow, or a cafe chosen not for price, but for rest. None of this is irresponsible. It is real life on the road. The mistake is building a budget around your ideal self instead of your traveling self. A realistic retirement travel budget assumes you will sometimes choose ease, shade, seating, privacy, and time. That's not waste. It is part of traveling well. The larger lesson is that hidden costs are usually not random. They collect where planning and energy are weakest. When travelers feel rushed, under-rested, over-optimistic, or too focused on headline prices, quiet costs move in. That is actually good news, because it means most of these expenses can be softened with better structure. Keep a disruption buffer. Price baggage before declaring a fare cheap. Treat one minor medical event as normal, not hypothetical. Value flexible bookings, where flexibility matters. Protect full days, not just low prices. Build arrivals that are calm enough to preserve your energy. And expect a few comfort purchases along the way, because your job in retirement travel is not to prove toughness. It is to build a life on the road that is enjoyable enough to repeat. And if you want to make that easier, use the tools that help you reduce expensive mistakes before they happen. A good checklist, a clear planning worksheet, and the right travel protections can save far more than they cost, especially over multiple trips. The best retirement travel systems do not just help you spend less. They help you lose fewer days, make fewer rushed decisions, and recover faster when plans shift. That is where the real savings are. Travel becomes much more affordable when you stop chasing the fantasy of a perfectly cheap trip and start designing a resilient one. Hidden costs will always exist, but they do not have to control the story. When you can see them early, price them honestly, and make calmer trade-offs. Travel feels less fragile and much more sustainable. That is how retirees stay on the road longer, with more confidence and fewer budget shocks. If this helped you think about travel more clearly, subscribe to TravelChoir. Share this with someone planning their next chapter abroad. And keep building a retirement travel life that is not just possible, but deeply enjoyable.